Saturday mornings with Danny Baker on 5 Live.
Very good morning to everybody.
Good morning, good morning.
That's a very animated Louise Pepper on the other side of the table. And here we go again. There are 2 hours of fun for old and young without the slightest hint of vulgarity. So last week's show, which we were never sure if it was actually being broadcast, apparently it was.
Well, I'm not sure because
No, I think it was.
they've opened the curtains again this
Yes,
week.
they have.
We were locked in a darkened room last week. I'd still think.
I apologise for such a navel gazing so early in the broadcast, but if you heard last week, we weren't sure we're going out. Thank you for all your emails saying, yeah, you're going out. And it was last week that David Bowie show us your copies of Ziggy Stardust. It might have been that. They were all tremendous.
Tugboat was last week as well, wasn't it? Tugboat, to prove you were listening.
Yes, that's a hold up with the letter. I'll tell you what we can do this week, and we'll launch straight into this. We'll get straight on with the show this week, in a moment, in a second. That lonesome bottle of booze. That's the headline on this. That lonesome bottle of booze. I was looking for something else in the week, and I don't know where you keep your spirits, but they're in a low cupboard with us. There's nobody drinks spirits.
They're in my nan's old sideboard,
there
as
you
it's
go.
known in our house. Where's it? It was in nan's sideboard.
Nan's sideboard. We've got a room in our house called Twizzle's room.
Aww.
Because when our dog nearly 20 years ago, Twizzle, was prone to nipping at people, and so we had to, when anyone come around who didn't know, you had to lock him in a room. And it's still, where's that? It's in Twizzle's room. Colloquial, yeah, any colloquialisms you've got for parts of your own house. Love to hear those. Yeah, you've got your nan's old side, but we've got Twizzle's room. Anyway, so that lonesome bottle of booze, it's the one you bring back sometimes from a holiday.
Oh,
or people
yes.
might bring. And we've got a bottle of Slivovich somebody brought back from East Europe. And I thought, that has survived many, many purges, and it's there. And there is always a lonesome bottle of booze. Port is often a lonesome bottle of booze.
Or a very odd schnapps
Yeah,
that's not a normal peach one, like a
think,
corn one or something really...
Even at a party you don't put it, but it's there. And it lives there like an old potato under the sink.
We've got blue bowls.
Have you?
That a friend bought me for a laugh about... Well, I remember it was when I lived in Kensington, so that's about 5 moves
there you
ago,
go.
the bottle of blue bowls.
Anyone wants to take a photo this morning, I know it's early, but of your lonesome bottle of booze, we'll see which is the most remaindered of all of it. And it's not, it just stays with you. And I saw this bottle of Slivovich, and I thought, man, what's that, 16? Slivovich, I always call it Slivovich. It may not be called that, because that's what Tony Hancock calls it in the radio. Yeah, it might be just Gorton and Simpson's generic name for any kind of East European poutine. Anyway, there's a lonesome bottle of booze in your house.
And it's always got a little bit out of it, where everyone tried it the first time and they went, oh.
But you can, so with certainly any photograph you have of, I think port is the one. A lot of people, but there's always a bottle of port in Christmas because you buy it in those, or bought it in those boxes with the cheese. And that goes to one side. So that's going to be this the visual. Anyway, we can't talk about lonesome bottles of booze all morning.
No.
We've got a program to do. So how about this? Because we will start the show in a second. I'll go back to the other music. Oh. You know, today's going to be like absolutely magnificent, glorious and beautiful. And then as the sun starts going down, you're sitting out in the garden and someone says, I just got bit.
Yeah.
Oh no, I've just been bitten. Now, I've said it many times in this program, we didn't used to have mosquitoes in Britain till about 30 years ago. There wasn't. You had,
oh, really?
No, you had gnats and you had midges, the swarms of gnats, but actual mosquitoes were a holiday thing. Absolutely true. I don't know, plenty we brought them back in our hair and luggage. But mosquitoes, no. You didn't have mosquitoes as you do on holiday. Gnats. That's a lot of gnats about, but they didn't used to bite. And now you've got the mosquitoes. And you think anywhere there's going to be lakes and water, you're going to have your mosquitoes. No. Do you know where does not have a single mosquito? They are unknown. They cannot get a toe hold or a beak hold because they have beaks.
What?
Well, it's a beak. What do you think drills into it? It's a beak. It's a beak. You put it under a microscope, it looks like a platypus.
What, like in QI, I'm expecting a klaxon to go off. The Lake District?
No, it's a country. There's a country that doesn't... We'll start the show in a second, everyone. Read this yesterday, you went off into a reverie. There's a country which... They're always way ahead anyway, but they don't... You can go there and you can sit out under the midnight sun.
Sweden, Norway...
Iceland. Sweden and Norway, you get bit to death on their lakes. But Iceland does not have a single
all my hobbies
mosquito.
sorted.
Isn't it? Exactly. Or leave it to about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, take a flight there, you can enjoy the evening. Because otherwise, hey Pete, how you doing? But Iceland does not have a mosquito in it, and they are way, way ahead. Very good morning to everybody. If you've never heard the show before, this is as deep dish as we ever get. What are we doing this morning, Pep?
Well, we almost needn't bother have topics, because look how much last week's show this week we've got to get
show,
through.
I've got to say, was a high water mark in correspondence.
Number 1, the return of worthless pop memorabilia you keep.
Yeah, let's do it again. Every 5 years we open the door of our worthless pop memorabilia museum. Exhibits in there are a wine gum that Rod Stewart was in a shop, and he said, "Have you got somewhere I can put this?" And they gave him a little ashtray, and he put it was a green wine gum, and he put it in there. And then when he waved goodbye, the fella thought, "Oh, Trove, still got it." The hem of Les Gray from Mud's teddy boy coat he used to wear.
Oh well, come on, that's significant.
Not the coat, the hem from it. These are pieces of pop history that you have, that you are quite willing every now and then when we open the door to flag us up here on the Museum of Worthless Pop Memorabilia. What do you got? What do you lack?
Number 2, it wasn't who you thought it was.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be anyone famous. It can be just anybody, if your Uncle Charlie turned out not to be. It wasn't who you thought it was. Number
3, used to hate it, now you love it, and vice versa.
Again, doesn't have to be foods or anything like that. It can be a kind of music, can be a style, can be anything. Perhaps is anyone you've grown into or thing. I mean, looking over
corned
here.
beef was for me,
No, you didn't used to like corn.
But I hated corned beef, and then someone cooked me corned beef hash, and I went, "Oh, hello."
Corned beef's just brilliant.
No, I always thought it was pointless because we've got real beef. Why would you want
There's
this
something in
corned
that,
business?
But, I know everyone's saying, really? This is, there's... Anyway, one of the only meals I've invented, and the door's always open if you want to ring up about that, and it's called a croque, sometimes a croque Deptford or croque Lewisham. Because indoors I will get inventive when I'm on my own, and I'll take whatever there is. And so you know what a croque monsieur is?
Mm-hmm.
Explain to people.
Your French toasted sandwich of cheese and ham, sometimes with a bit of...
it's got the cheese on the outside of it, hasn't
sauce.
it?
It's all sort of toasty and yummy and
whatever.
yum, yum.
So it was indoors, and all we had was bread, beans, and corned beef. And I thought, well, there's corned beef sandwich. You can't have corned beef sandwich. So I toasted a corned beef sandwich and poured beans all over it.
Oh, this sounds like my dad's dream.
Oh, I'm telling you, it was. And people said, "Oh, I don't know." And it melts. It melts the corned beef, and you get. And you take a spoonful of that, or a forkful of it, and everyone I've given it to goes,
Melt a bit of cheese on top.
I'm telling you, it's time to start sending it. Anyway, but this is things you've grown into. Like, it doesn't have to be a food, but they usually are, like anchovies for me. Go on.
Still not on board with the anchovy. Number 4, trying to be quiet.
See, I can eat tins of those, that little tiny fork. Oh, no.
Or it's the hairy, bony bit.
Lucky to get it. What did you say?
Trying to be quiet.
Trying to be quiet. There is that we're doing this morning, if you will.
As a child, if I needed to be quiet, I used to pretend I was in The Sound of Music where they're hiding behind the graves.
Did you?
Yes. Well, you have to be absolutely silent. That was the most silent thing I could think of, was when they were hiding in the cemetery.
Yes, they do.
And the torches are going round.
Yes,
if I had to be very quiet, I think pretend you're in the Von Trapps.
I never quite bought that scene. There's they're not peeping out from behind it. Sometimes they're almost standing up. No, my computer's gone off in here. I don't know if that affects the show, but it's gone right off. What else?
I'll keep going. Real life acrobatics you've performed.
Yeah, anything, a high wire act. Why would anyone need to stand on somebody's shoulders? That sort of thing.
Oh, lovely.
Anything you've ever done acrobatics in real life.
The consequences of swinging something around.
I don't know why I wrote this. I'll be absolutely honest with you.
I was really sure there was going to be something that happened this week.
No, not this week. And now you've said that, I was playing gladiators with my brother when I was about 9, and because I was captain of the school football team, of course I was. Of course I was when I was about 8, and later on. One of my duties, because there's a downside to being captain of the school football team.
The mantle weighs heavy, doesn't it?
Oh, with great power comes great responsibility. I had to bring home the net full of footballs and put something called dubbing on them.
Oh, yes.
Dubbing was something you put on foot. It doesn't exist, I'm sure, anymore. But you brought and it kept them supple. And so I brought it, but I had the net. I took all the balls out of the net, and being a gladiator, that was going to be my net. Yeah, and I had a broom handle, and we were in the front room. But my parents had one of those 5-prong lights in our council house front room, lit it up like Shea Stadium. It was so overlit. Tremendous. That's with the standard lamps as well. It was so bright. It was like a tanning parlour in our front room. And as I swung the net, it grabbed one of those and yanked it out the ceiling. That went over big. So yes, there are consequences to swinging things around.
Number 7, stuff damaged by famous people.
Yep. Oh, can we get that? Can we get
I think we can.
We can get. You gave them, so let's say you gave Shirley Bassey a Parker pen to sign Shirley Bassey, and she blunted the nib. That's just a for instance. I'm not for a second saying Dame Shirley Bassey broke somebody's Parker pen.
Number 8, the first thing you criticise.
You precocious little runt. What did you do? You turned around at 3 and said, "This crock-lution seems a little watery to me." I don't know. What would be the first thing you ever remember or you told you criticised?
Number 9, odd ID you've used.
I know I held up my shoes in a bank once.
What?
Yeah.
I've normally heard your stories, but this is new
the
to
audience
me.
are all going, they'll all join in there and follow the bouncing ball. I was in Norfolk. We'll start the show in a second, the phone-in part of the show. The computers are all down, so that's it. That's why we're talking endlessly. So I was in Norfolk in about 1988, and I was only known really in London. I used to do a show called the 6 O'Clock Show with Michael Aspel. Big noise in London, but outside nobody, why would they? And I was in Norfolk, and we had no money when... you have to read the books to find out that's absolutely true, because I, absolutely blow through every tanner. And we were in Norfolk, and then we got off the little boat we'd rented, and we was walking around this, I think it was Sal House Broad, and we saw a junk shop, and we thought, I like that. I don't know what it was, a jug and a bowl or whatever it was. Oh, that's nice. 60 quid it was. I said, you got any money? I said, oh, no. You got any cards in you? I said, no, I ain't, no. So I said, you really want it? Oh, I love it. So I went over to a phone box and I rang. This is how long ago it was. I rang the bank. Yeah. I rang them and asked to speak to Mervyn, who was the bank manager. Hang on, Danny, put you through to the bank manager. Right? And I explained my situation. He said, but you've got no money. And I was reunited with Mervyn on the One show a couple of years ago.
No.
People didn't believe the stories about him, yeah. And I said, yeah, I know, don't details. Come on, Wilcox, let me never know what the truth about. And he said, what do you... all right. I said, because there's a little Barclays bank here. All you've got to do is ring them up and say, look, I'm coming in there. Give him £100.
This is the good old days.
I'm not...
He knew you were good for it eventually.
Eventually. Just in time to switch my account to Lloyd's. Anyway, so he said, all right, I'll ring them up. He said, they're going to need some ID. I said, well, if I had ID, right, anything you can... I said, I've got nothing. No, I've just got off a boat. I've walked 2 miles. I'm in a village in Norfolk. Well, look, we can't do that, because even if I ring up, they're not going to just accept you at face value. And I looked down and I was wearing leopard skin shoes. And I said, I'm wearing my leopard skin shoes. Now, you know my leopard skin shoes. He went, they don't. I said, how many people do you think are walking around Sal House now wearing leopard skin shoes? Just tell them, will you, man? And I walked into the bank and I queued up and I got to the counter and I took one of my shoes off and I said, I believe you're expecting me. And that's absolutely true. I always like to think the fella behind took both his shoes off and asked for £200, but that is absolutely true. So, methods of ID you may have used.
And just the last one, ever felt a gooseberry or just a bit spare?
Yeah, a bit spare. Yeah, just, I wish somebody told us that we were right. Twit sitting here on my own. It doesn't have to be a romantically linked, but there it is. That's the show before us. If we got over there, Pat?
Well, this is brilliant. It's fortuitous that the computers aren't working because we've got so much last week's show this week to get through.
Yeah, let's see how that goes. About 10 to 11. We've gone through it.
Last week we had the tremendous story of the David Gower oil painting.
Remind people who may somehow have missed last week's show.
The lady's father was the Lord Mayor of Leicester, and he'd been presented with a less than good painting of David Gower at the crease. That was now, every year on her mother's birthday, is raffled around the family, and they have to display it.
Who's going to be curator of this painting for the next year?
Absolute due prominence for the next year. Rebecca emailed in, I've just listened to your David Gower story. It's great to hear our family is not alone. My mother-in-law had a collection of Toby jugs, and when she passed away, we couldn't think what to do with them. There are 13 plus 3 miniatures.
I like a Toby jug.
On the first New Year after she died, we distributed one each to the family, all filled with chocolates. Each year, there is now a very complicated way of randomly redistributing them, each with a small gift for the new owner. We also have to post a picture of the Toby jug in an interesting place. The 3 miniatures are held in reserve for new members of the family. You will know you have been accepted by the clan if you receive one. It started as a bit of fun, but is a great reason to meet up each year.
How about that?
Lovely.
I thought that was unique, the David Gower painting, but it turns out there are those little peccadillos going on. So Clara produced the show. She wasn't here last week. I was furious because it was a great show last week. I can undermine someone there. But she went to Greece and was reading while in Greece about Costa Rica.
As you do.
That's what I couldn't get. She came in this morning and said, in Costa Rica there are giant spheres, giant balls, some 8 feet across. Ancient, nobody knows what they are. And if anyone can tell us any information or has actually seen them, because...
Never even heard of it.
The woman might be trying to recover ground after last week.
Yes, this is true.
Oh, it's up there now. Hang on, it's Marlowe. Is that Marlowe? Is his name Marlowe? I thought this call should then be done by Shakespeare. I know. Absolutely. Today I can fill as long as we need. Here's Marlowe. Hey, Marlowe! Now, you see...
Is he... It's not it's not Marlon, is it? And he's over 2 lines like we've had before.
Let's hold... his name's Tim.
Oh.
I adore this programme, I've got to tell you.
Is he in Marlowe, perhaps?
It doesn't matter. Hey, Tim! Tim!
Hey, Danny, ahoy, hoy.
How are you?
No, I live in Marlowe.
Oh,
but,
no. Well, you can't expect the world's #1 information service to get everything right. Tim, what's the story? What have you got in terms of worthless pop memorabilia for us?
Well, back in the 1980s, I was a student at Leicester University. Mm-hmm. And I used to work on some of the gigs, the entertainment stuff.
Okay.
And one particular evening, the headline act was Bad Manners.
Oh, right.
Who I'm sure you
yes, of course.
Met.
Yeah, Lip Up Fatty. Lorraine was a great record. Lorraine was actually a great record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, and that evening I was on dressing room duty, so looking after them, making sure whatever's on their rider and whatever they needed was provided.
Mainly, was it, just because of their image, was it beer and crisps, or did they have highfalutin taste to the best of your memory?
No, I think you're right with the first of those options.
Right. Okay.
But in any case, 2 things. First of all, that I remember from that evening. One is that even though I'd been introduced to the band as Tim, Buster Bloodvessel insisted on calling me Rodney for the evening. These
people who get your name wrong, there should be something done about those Marlowe, shouldn't they? They should absolutely be... Yeah, so he called you Rodney all night, yeah.
Absolutely. But then at the end of the evening, it was an interesting evening, as you can probably imagine.
I'll bet.
But at the end of the evening, as a mark of gratitude for looking after them, he presented me with a bottle of Newcastle Brown Ale.
All right.
Which remains unopened and a prized possession to this day. 30 years old. Bottle of Newcastle Brown Ale.
And as handed to you now, you've got the provenance on this, of course. You can produce photographs.
Not signed or anything.
No, that's the thing. So it's all very well to ring up and say that bottle of Newcastle Brown Ale was presented to me by a man whose pop light burned brightly for about 3 months. But and are people impressed? Do you take them in and say, look, I can show you because you're an old and trusted friend. You know what this is. Does anyone ever get impressed by it?
I wouldn't say impressed. No, not really.
No.
Not really.
Well, why am?
No, well, that's good. I'm glad to have found a kindred spirit.
Because he called himself Buster Bloodvessel, the lead singer. But, of course, he stole that name from the character Ivor Cutler plays in the Beatles' Magical Mystery Tour. He's called that. He calls himself that as well, isn't it? Now, if I were you, and we're off the air, so I can tell you this. Tim, tell people Ivor Cutler gave it to you, and then you'll get the admiring glances, because all you've got to say is Buster Bloodvessel. Ivor Cutler. Then you've got yourself, and of course you can say probably John Lennon himself then handled.
Oh, lovely!
You see what I'm doing here? I'm polishing the myth for you, my friend.
That's right. That's kind of you. And I wish I'd thought of that 30 years ago.
Who else did you see through Leicester University while you were there?
Probably. I mean, the best band that I thought were, the fantastic live was Dr. Feelgood. We had them a few times. I don't know, Spear of Destiny.
Wow, man.
And of course, to trump everybody, Shawaddy Waddy.
Yeah, there you go. They're still working, and they're still working. Thank you very much indeed, Marlowe's own Tim. That's the best way to do that. So what have you got of there, Peps, and then we'll move on.
Unwanted prizes.
Oh, it's last week. Unwanted
Last week's show this week. John in Stoke. I just caught up with the podcast, and this has turned my mind to a prize I won about 10 years ago at Haydock Racecourse.
This week we're doing wrong prizes. Did I write that down or not?
No.
Oh, being given the wrong prize.
Oh, next week.
Okay.
Rather than unwanted, this could be filed more as inappropriate. I was lucky enough to be invited by a bookmaker to a day's hospitality in the restaurant at Haydock Park. Lovely day, beautiful weather, and a steady flow of aforementioned hospitality. About halfway through the day, the event got better. I won second prize in the raffle.
Oh.
I boldly strode to the front of the restaurant to collect my prize from the MC, and given exactly what you need, 200 miles from home, dressed in finery and getting the train home, a lawnmower.
Oh, lucky to get it. There's giving some side, turning that down.
Well, the hospitality continued to flow and the lawnmower never quite made it home after various failed attempts to give it away to someone more locally based or someone who had an actual lawn rather than a window.
Oh, I see. That it is that.
We found a PowerPoint at Warrington Station, and after a few minutes of trying to mow Platform 3, the Transport Police decided it was best I was parted from my bounty. I often think back what was going through the raffle organisers' mind when they considered the prizes, and often wonder what happened to the man of the third prize, the winner of the third prize, who got a gas barbecue.
You see, I think that a lot of people are looking down their hooter and thinking, well, these are pretty good prizes.
John in
the
Stoke.
The location is wrong, but lawnmowers, old man always used shears. We didn't have much of a garden.
What?
Shears.
That's like some sort of
Shears.
punishment.
No.
I don't know, and shear the garden.
One of the most beautiful and wonderful and warm memories I have is being woken. Me and my brother's bedroom overlooked the garden in the Masonettes. And, as I say, it was quarter the size of this studio. But hearing that... as my old man, his hands and knees would inch his way up the lawn. Yeah. I know we've got a fella there, Graham. It's probably not called Graham, but we're just whatever name we give you this morning. The BBC has the right to act as font. Here's Graham. Hey, Graham.
Yeah, morning.
Morning to you, Graham. Graham, where are you?
I'm in sunny Bridgewater.
Okay, my friend. It's not so unusual to have people using shears on their garden, is it? Manually cutting the grass. Again, in the Beatles' Help, the gardener uses false teeth. Now, what are you calling this for, Graham? What's the story?
It's a story about ID, Danny.
Okay, yeah, go on.
We went on a holiday with my wife, and she'd never driven in a convertible, so we bought one before we went. It was a maroon XR3i convertible, exciting car. And we zoomed across Europe, had a great time, but we bought it on a Saturday and driven it across Europe on a Sunday, so we had no documents for it at all. So when I was in Germany, I had to go to the dentist. I had an emergency dentist appointment. And when I was in Paris on the way back, we got stopped by a very official police lady, and she said she wanted all the documents, and the only thing I had to give her was my dentist bill. So I was in an English car from England, gave her a German dentist bill, and she looked at me and went, "Yeah, okay," and off I went, and that was it. So I was never pleased to have kept a bill in my life.
That's official documentation? Is it a German dentist bill?
Yeah, yes, yeah. Well, it's got your name on it, and then loads of official-looking things in German. So,
and all you've got to do then is produce your own teeth and say, "Oh, the hand in glove, the pair of them." Well, my friend, thank you very much indeed. That's the kind of thing we're after. Do they still, perhaps? Sometimes I think I'm right remembering this. When you come back into the country, thank you very much, Graham. When you come back into the country, they, if you've got a camera, they ask to see some of the pictures on it. Have you ever heard this? To say you didn't buy it abroad.
Especially from America, where it's quite limited on what you can bring back, isn't it?
And you have to go, well, hang on, look, there's me in my house. I don't know if I dreamt that or I did that. I don't know if can anyone back me up in that? Again, it's popped into me.
I remember being told, if you go and do a spending spree in sort of New York or something, take all the labels off and act like you've worn all those clothes. That's what you took with you.
When Danny Kelly and I used to bring home suitcases full of records, they'd sweat with like...
We took these on holiday with us.
I know. We used to bring I mean, I don't know if customers are interested in vinyl records. I always think there's a good few quids of them, but they're all for private use and have never been resold. I'll tell you what, it would have to come back to Shelley. I do apologise, and you, Richard, if you'll be good enough, we'll sort it out, because... well, I was going to say the computers are down, but they've been working for the last 10 minutes. We've just been talking. Something quick, Peps, and then we'll move on.
We had last week's show this week, famous people's things you have worn.
Mm-hmm.
Dave from Lancaster, I've worn Stan Laurel's bowler, which he wore during the 1947 British tour. It's now in the Laurel and Hardy Museum in Ulverston. And that's all he says.
Well,
Doesn't tell us
my dear friend Jeff Pope, or to give him his full name, Oscar-nominated Jeff Pope, he's just finished making the Laurel and Hardy biopic.
Oh.
And I wonder if they actually... Because if I was Steve Coogan, who's playing Stan Laurel, putting that on would give you that extra thing to push you over the edge and give the performance of a lifetime. We'll be right back.
Saturday mornings with Danny Baker on 5 Live. Home of Danny Baker's sausage sandwich game. Will it be red sauce, brown sauce, or no sauce at all?
Won't be anything unless I finish writing the questions.
Oh, do you need me to step in again?
I've got the questions here, but another one, one of those really complicated ones, just occurred to me while I was hanging on every word of the information there, and I'm halfway through it.
Oh, okay. Shall I read something last week's show?
Oh, hang on, give me a second.
All right.
That's all right. Whatever this is in the background, just play that up a minute and I'll finish what I'm writing in 1 second. It might need another twist, that's all I'm thinking. But anyway, let's open the shop, because Gary O'Neill joins us. Gary!
Morning, Danny. How are you?
Good as gold, Gary. I'm just writing out a question. You don't have to worry about it, because you've just got to answer it. But I'm writing a question, and I don't know if it's any good. But we'll give it a shot. That's what we'll do, and then you can pronounce it any good. Gary...
I'm sure it'll be fine.
Have you ever heard the sausage sandwich game before, Gary?
No, about it.
Well, there you go. When you say it'll be fine, you said plenty there, because it will be. It can't go wrong, and certainly not from your point of view, because it's just, I know it's just going to be fine when we get this question. I didn't know you were from Beckenham.
Yeah, I was born in Beckenham. Yeah, I'm still around the Bromley area. My family are all based around there. So
and this for the rest of the nation is going to have to sit this out, because that's about 10 minutes from where I live, and where I'm all around that kind of way. And David Bowie, of course, Beckenham. You know that.
Yeah.
He used to be in the two.
Yeah. You were a Millwall fan, Danny, weren't you?
No, I was. It's a life sentence. It's like luggage or herpes. You can't get rid of it. Boom. It's a.
I was the same. So growing up, I was taken down there as well.
What, did you really? Man alive. Who was playing in the team then? Do you remember? And then when would it have been?
Tony Cascarino and Sheringham and...
Well, you were a good luck charm. You should have hung around. That was a golden period. Man, I didn't know that about you, Gary.
Yeah.
So what, you used to get the 47 down towards, or the one to New Cross, is that what it would? You go to Catford Garage, you could change there, or just hang around in Lewisham, and so anyway. No, I didn't know that about you, and I didn't know you were a Millwall supporter. Now you've got a golf club in every room of your house, haven't you?
I have, yeah, bad habit.
Explain why on earth you have a golf club in every room of your house, Gary O'Neill.
It's not really planned, but I like to always sort of practice my backswing and stuff, and then I just sort of leave them places, and now I've ended up and practice my swing in every room now, because there's one everywhere. So. And
you never go around with a caddy and gather them all up. You just leave them there.
No, I'm training my little girl though. To be me covered, so.
Man, well, and here's the other thing, and I promise you we'll get on with it and get out everyone's way in a second. Never happens. You've already been on holiday. Now, your season at Bristol finished. How long... why didn't I ask this as a question? How long was the gap between walking off the pitch and getting on a plane? How long did you wait?
I waited a little while, because my kids are a little bit older now, so I had to wait a while. But I used to always fly that night if I could.
Did you? The night off?
Yeah, the actual night. Yeah, the night of the game we used to fly. But we had about 10 days this year.
So when people accuse players in the last game of the season of already being on the beach, you could turn around and say, no, give it about 8 hours though.
Yeah.
Wow. And where did you go?
Dubai.
And how was that? Is it your first time there? I've never been there myself, but I understand.
I've been a couple of times, yeah, it was lovely. It's really good for the kids. The kids loved it, so...
Gary, bless you for sharing that information. There's something else I know about you, but that's what I'm going to use in one of the questions here. So wait there, Gary, and we'll find out who's playing it. Here's our friend Alan. Hey, Alan.
Good morning, Danny. Happy birthday to you for the week as well.
Oh, man alive. This is how to curry favour with us. I want him to win. Christopher's... it's on Thursday. This is my last show as a broadcaster in my 50s.
Oh.
How about that? That's as small an anniversary or an event as you'll get. It's my last show as a broadcaster in my 50s. So I want you to... Who are you playing for, Alan?
It could have been one of three, but I've got to go for the lifelong Wolves addiction. It's the only time I'll ever represent him, so I've got to go for it.
You sound as if you're talking through several balaclavas at the moment, but let me just... Maybe this music in the background isn't helping. You said you could have chosen three.
Yeah, it could have been three.
Who are the three?
It could have been East Fife as my Scottish team.
Yeah.
I've seen Morecambe a lot up here, so they're a great club, but as I've been a Wolves addiction since 1973, who else could it be?
See, what year is it? Perhaps it's 2017, right?
Yes.
And this is Lord Reef's gift. Still, it's not his fault. It's not Alan's fault. So wait there, Alan, and we'll get right back to you. Here's our friend Christopher. Hey, Christopher.
Good morning, Danny. Happy birthday.
Bless you. One all. Well done, 1-1. We can see how that works. 1-1 then, Christopher. Christopher, unless, again, the machinery's been all over the place this morning, both internally and externally. You're in Hungary?
That's correct.
What are you doing?
Much clearer line.
Exactly. It's clear as a belt, Hungary. What are you doing? What are you doing over there?
Well, I moved over for love. I'm lucky in the fact that I'm allowed to work with clients all over the world. So yeah. I have a choice of where I live at the weekends. And Hungary is incredibly cheap. It's got the most amazing, good-looking woman I can live with, and the weather's fantastic. So
I've got to say, if I was given the gift living anywhere all over the world, I've got to say, Hungary, though, is good. I'd move. Hawaii seems to be the place I would. How long you been in Hungary?
On and off for 5 years now.
And has anyone approached you? See, I always think anyone who lives in Hungary is going to be approached by spies.
He's not going to tell you, is he?
If you're a spy already, it helps.
Yes. I didn't ask what you did for a living. I do apologise. But you know what he's doing here? We're through the looking glass. He's doing the old bluff, double bluff, bluff. We know what the story is. Well, bless you. Who are you playing for, by the way?
I'm playing for a club with a bit of history. It's a club called Vatch FC.
Tell us about
Vatch FC.
Tell us about Vatch FC.
Vatch won the Hungarian title 2-3 decades back. Yeah. I went through a period of decline. A bit like Millwall, in fact. But
or indeed this show. Millwall. Yes, it is, yeah. No. We didn't go through a period of decline. It's our natural state.
No, the beauty of Vatch is it's owned by a friend of mine, another Englishman from Liverpool.
Go on.
And he bought into the club because I had a passion, and he's bought them from the depths of the third division. They won the third title year before last. Back in the second division, and they finished 5th or 6th this year.
These foreign owners coming in.
I know, coming and turning clubs around. Give name to this genius. What's his name? Joe. I know.
No,
a spy protects his sources. I know that. I can do it. Well, anyway, so it's the first time we've had Vatch FC. Alan, you're back again.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Now he can't hear us. This is exactly how the show should run. So Alan's playing for Wolves. Christopher is for I nearly said Hungary. Vatch FC. Gary O'Neill's thinking, oh man, I didn't know it was going to be quite like this. But it doesn't matter, because here we go, Gary. I'm going to ask some questions of our friends Alan and Christopher, and by anticipating your answers, they will score a goal for their teams. I bet you had a question ready, Peps, this week in case I did it to you again.
Just in case.
What was your question?
It was... No, I'm not going to say, because you might need it.
That's true. All right, here we go. Now, appropriately, and this one, Gary and Alan gets first go at this, because a lifetime under the headphones and a lifetime attending rock music, sometimes I need people to repeat things quite a few times these days. I do. What? I said, you do that all the time these days. But I actually do think I actually need syringing, which is... I know. I'm sorry to use that note. But I do think... No, I've never had that. Have you ever had it? No. But my sister did, and she said, you've never felt more alive. She did. She said she came out of the surgery and just thought, I feel stones lighter, and my feet aren't touching... Your whole balance goes a bit, but never mind my sister. Gary O'Neill. Alan, Gary O'Neill, how many times he's had his ears syringed? He's never had his ears syringed? Yeah, he had them syringed once. Or plenty of times. He is, you know, it's almost a daily routine or whatever. But never once, more than once, actually having his ears... I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to get it done.
This is being done by the doctor, not that weird thing where people put candles in
No.
their ears and all that
The ear
nonsense,
candle,
right?
I've tried that. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
What do you think, Alan? Gary O'Neill, has he ever had... It helps you swing, I understand. I don't know. We'll find out. He's had his ears syringed once, never, or more than once. What do you think, Alan?
Well, it's still quite a young guy, so I'm guessing never.
How about you, Alan? You had your ears syringed?
I've not had that pleasure yet.
No. I think we all should do it. Maybe we'll all get together. Christopher over in Hungary, where they're just as competent in doing this as anywhere else. Christopher, what did our previous one?
I could literally wax lyrical about.
Oh, but that's worth a goal in itself. Christopher,
I will say the man Gary has had it done once.
Okay, he's had it done once. How about yourself, Christopher? You ever had your ears done?
I've had it a couple of times.
There you go. Okay, we're getting the yin and yang of the whole ear canal. Gary O'Neill, having the ears waxed. Yeah, you've had it done once. You've had it done more than once. Or nope, never had my ears syringed. The answer, please, Gary O'Neill.
Well, Danny, I had a nasty ear infection that I picked up on a pre-season trip.
Yeah.
And the doctor needed to syringe my left ear.
So you've had it done once?
Once.
Oh, alive, look at that. What's that done to the score, Peps?
Wolves 0, Vatch FC 1.
What, did you pick it up in a swimming pool or something? Is it some kind of...
Well, we were doing some marine training, and he kept having us in and out of the sea, and we had to drag each other out of it, and the next day I woke up with a terrible eye in here. So
Yeah.
I believe I got it in there somehow.
I was trying to entertain the kids once, Gary, in a place in Spain. We had staying at a friend's place in Spain, and when the kids were little, I used to do that thing, which doctors don't recommend, pretending I was sitting on the bottom of the pool, and the kids saying, Dad, and I was talking to someone down there. Of course, the pressure on the old... I got that. I had to do
nasty.
That was an operation, though, not a syringe. What's that done to the score, Pep?
Wolves 0, Vatch FC 1.
Maybe someone can recommend an ear syringe thing. It's not like a stirrup pump, is it? It's only little. I don't know. Right, here we go. Sorry, here we go. So so Vatch have scored. Alan, you're going to have to sit there while Christopher gets first go at this. Now, Gary, you and your wife have been together a long time, haven't you? You've been together a long time?
Yes,
am I right?
we have.
Okay, now just hold it there. So here's the thing. And this is the complicated question I was writing that may not be worth it at the moment, perhaps.
Okay.
But, I didn't finish it. So how do I do the alphabet? A to H, I to N, O to Z. That's what I use. Okay, right. Now, all right. This is completely pointless. But anyway, Christopher is known as his wife, childhood sweethearts, as they say. But the school his wife went to, is the secondary school that Gary O'Neill's wife went to. If you take the first letter of that, the letter it starts with, name of the school, right? Okay. Then go 3 more letters of the alphabet up. So if it was B, you go C, D, E, F. That's where you arrive at, right? So that's what it'll be. So you take the first letter of the school that Gary O'Neill's wife went to, secondary school, and then move on 3 up the alphabet. So, as I say, if it was L, M, N, O, it would be P. That's how we'll do that. What letter do you arrive at if you take the first letter of the school that Gary O'Neill's wife went to and move 3 letters up the alphabet? Is it A to H, I to N, or O to Z? What do you think there, Christopher?
Well, given the fact that the man sounds almost apostolic, I'm going to go for the fact that he went to a school beginning with Saint, so I'll go the O to Z thing.
It's his wife, remember, isn't it? No, Gary, but so we're going with... Okay,
well, she has to be a saint to be with him.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'll tell you what, next time I can't do this show, keep Christopher's number. We'll broadcast live from either Buddha or Pest. Where are we? Oh, yes, now we're back to Alan. Alan, if I ask Gary O'Neill to think about the secondary school his wife went to and get the first letter of that, then move it 3 up the alphabet, then what letter do we arrive at? A to H
A to
or
H, I to N.
to N. What do you think?
Well, was going to go for the last answer too, so I'll just go for I2N or whatever it was.
I2N. Okay, now you realise if you lose this one, the game's over.
I do.
Yeah, I know.
Wolf supporter, so I'm used to it.
Right, so I to N and O to Z. Gary, the secondary school your wife went to, if you take the first letter of that school and then move 3 up the alphabet, does it come under A to H, I to N, or O to Z? The answer, please, Gary O'Neill.
O to Z.
Does it?
Oh.
What was
it is.
If I ask what school it was?
Sorry, Danny, did you say something there?
No, I've started reading a book here. Hang on, I'll put that down. Right, okay, so O to Z, what's that done to the score, Pep?
It's Wolves 0, Vatch FC 2.
I know, Robert Plant is on your side, though. That's the main thing, Alan.
Yeah,
he's willing you to claw one back.
Well, the last question is the one that counts, so.
It is. Do you know what? There is something in that. Otherwise, you could be beat 3-0. Oh, I forgot to do the one that makes sense. Oh no!
No, they've all made perfect sense.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw this one in there. It's not going. It won't count. It won't count. I'm going to disallow the goal, but we'll do it very quickly because I know Gary's. Apart from leaving a golf club in every room, and I think the phrase I'm trying to get going here is something you don't hear very often. Gary's passion is he loves to pick and mix. You love to pick and mix, don't you?
Yeah, I'm a big pick and mix fan.
Is it true you'll even make detours into cinemas even when you're not going to see a film just to load up?
Yeah, if I see a cinema, I'm in trouble. I can't walk past.
Woolworths going must have devastated you.
Yeah, we had one down the bottom of my road. But
they started that racket. They should have patented it, but they didn't. But what the question? And this is a phantom question. This is not part of the sausage sandwich game. It doesn't matter what happens with this. I'm going to do this very quickly. I'll come back to Alan again. Alan, this doesn't count, but if Gary O'Neill walks into a pick and mix, would he go for the fizzy cola, a pineapple chunk, or a milk bottle? What would be his favourite if the first one he would reach for there? A fizzy cola, a pineapple chunk, or a milk bottle? What do you think?
Well, I love fizzy colas, so I'll go for that one.
Okay, and Christopher, you're left with a pineapple chunk or a milk bottle?
I'm really disappointed the strawberry lace isn't there, but I'm going to go for the pineapple chunk.
A pineapple chunk. Gary, a fizzy cola, pineapple chunk, or a milk bottle? What would it have been?
It would have been the fizzy cola. Bad news for Alan, he's won the one that doesn't count.
Oh, disallowed.
It is. Well, you see, like ordinary football, the sausage sandwich game has a controversial past, and this will always be remembered as the third goal in the 1966 World Cup. Why didn't it count?
Yeah.
Why didn't it count? But it doesn't. It doesn't count. I said it in advance. The whistle had gone. There was no point in Alan running on and getting that. But now we come to the question that gave the game its name, and it is Alan again. And this could be a phantom equaliser. I hand Gary a sausage sandwich. He puts, and he keeps he keeps a sausage in every room, propped up next to his putters, and he takes them and he enjoys. You enjoy a sausage sandwich, of course you do, Gary. So, and I hand it to him. Now we know what's coming now, and it's yours, Alan. This will be controversial if you score this. Does he ask for red sauce? Does he ask for brown sauce? Does he ask for no sauce at all? The answer, please, Alan.
Well, my friend Barry texted me, he's sure it's going to be brown, so I'm going brown.
If you get this, it'll be the draw that never was. I like this.
It'll be like the ghost goal between Chelsea and Liverpool.
That's it. There you go. That's we're building our own mythology. Christopher, you're left with red sauce or no sauce at all.
I'm going to go for Vorosh sauce.
Go on. We don't speak.
Vorosh is Hungarian for red.
It is. Oh. Is it? It's a long way to go for red.
Vorosh.
Hungarian.
And what would be brown?
Barnes is brown, and minch sauce is no sauce at all. But I'll go Vorosh.
Minch sauce.
No, minch sauce is none at all.
That sounds like mint sauce. If I get served lamb, it's just fine. Like if I get served lamb in Hungary and I say, "Have you had any mint sauce?" they think I'm a lunatic. Do we have no sauce? What's this? Yes, we have no bananas. What did he say? What was that?
He went for red.
Red.
It's a straight brown red.
Gary O'Neill, I hand you a sausage sandwich, plump and bursting at the seams, squashed down into the buttery bread. And do you reach for Gary? Do you reach for red sauce? Do you reach for brown sauce? or is it mince, no sauce at all? What do you think, mate? What's the answer, my friend?
It's no sauce at all, Danny.
Oh, no! No! We rarely get such maniacs. Who knew? What's that done to the score? It's 3-0.
No, it remains Wolves 0, Thatch FC 2.
Wow. Gary, you're not curious about a little condiment? How did that happen?
Yeah, I've tried them. I'm not keen, really. I'm normally eating them on the golf course, and the sauce comes out all over your glove, and it's not ideal.
That's
so we go no sauce.
You're a slave to the game, aren't you? And you don't. Do you have sauce? No sauce with everything, if that's a phrase.
Pretty much. Right. I never have ketchup or brown sauce ever.
This is a puritanism that's almost like this would be something that Oliver Cromwell himself would have tipped his big old black hat to. This is extraordinary way to live. Well done. By the way, Alan, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway, your phantom goals. We haven't got that. There goes the weary sigh of a Wolves fan. And Christopher, all our best to both sides of Budapest over there. Because
well, just before I go, I do have a story about documentation.
Okay, wait right there, because I just want to say thank Gary O'Neill. Gary, you are, how far are you away from coming into management, do you think?
I'm not sure. I want to play as long as I can, but I'm looking forward to management as well, Danny. I've been keen on it for years, so
well,
hopefully I'll get a crack.
You could always come back to your first love. Since you were down there, I think we have a brand new ground.
That'd be nice, yeah. We'll have to see if Neil wants me.
Do you know what? Long may he be there, but I bet I'll talk to you again in 5 years' time. And I say, take no notice of the people in the crowd. You're doing a great job.
I've been doing that for years anyway. I'm good at that.
Gary, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
you very much. And I'll tell you what, stay there, Christopher, because we get your story after the show's own jingle.
Good morning, everybody. It's the Danny Baker Show, radiating out across the airwaves. Come the sunshine or the rain, come aboard the Danny train. We'll kick our slippers off and throw our cares away. What better thing to do than have a jolly jape or two? Don't touch that dial, there's nowhere else to go. Come and join a happy session, wave ta-ta to the recession on the Danny Baker Show. Take it away, Danny.
Everything's going wrong this morning. Thank you, Wisby. Indeed, I will. So we're going to stay in Hungary. It's the first time a sausage sandwich. Maybe that's the deal. You win the sausage sandwich game, you can stick around and entertain the folks.
You have to give a story. Can I just say, sorry, you always say don't apply science to the sausage sandwich. Apparently lots of people messaging in saying that they were sure that Gary, being a Bristol City player, would be red.
Red?
Yeah.
No, but it never works.
Never apply science to the sausage sandwich game.
North, south, none of it works.
Sorry,
one of our rare people who had none at all. So, Christopher, I should mention, you have to ID yourself all the time over there in Hungary. I know. I'm convinced it's like a Graham Greene novel. So, so what have you got?
Well, it was a story. I went to the States, mid-90s, and I had a young cousin who was just moved back to America from living with us in the UK. Yeah. He was 18, and he had forgotten the fact that he was 18, which I could go drinking with him in the UK.
Yeah.
Not so much in New York. So we're at Shea Stadium, baseball game, and we're drinking beer in the car park without the brown bag round. The policeman came up and arrested both of us.
Did he? No warning, nothing?
No, he asked for ID.
Yeah.
My cousin, God bless him, was banged to rights. But me, I gave him my passport, and when he opened up the passport on the front page, thank God it says what it says. Her Britannic Majesty, Secretary of State, requests and requires the name of Her Majesty to allow all those whom it may concern the bearer to pass freely without let or hindrance.
Yeah.
And he looked at this, and he looked at me and he says, "Are you diplomatic?"
Oh!
And I just said, "What does it say on the passport?"
Yeah.
It says, "Here, I can't arrest you." I said, "Well, there you go then." And off he left me.
Bravo, my friend. There's one in the eye for Uncle Sam. And so you carried on swigging your booze, absolutely naked in the car park. No, the booze was knocking, not you. Because then he wouldn't have needed ID. He said they're from Britain. Thank you very much indeed for that little addendum there. Christopher, the winner of today's sausage sandwich game in Hungary. What do you got over there, Peps?
Simon in Tring, the consequences of swinging something around. You can see where this one's going from the opening sentence.
Mm-hmm.
My dad had just put in an enormous panoramic window in our kitchen.
Go on.
Of course, the best place to play cricket is in front of a newly installed window. My brother bowled, I heaved at it, sent the ball a mile into the South London sky, and my follow-through, or swing indeed, I let go of the bat, and it went through the new window with putty barely dried. Dad was not happy.
The thing, in a sitcom, see, this would you see somebody fitting the opening thing, you'd see somebody just getting the party dry and turn and go, there you go, Mr. Johnson, that brand new window there should last you years. You think, well, that's going to go. And people think that's corny, but it happens all the time in real life. Now, our friend Siobhan is waiting. Siobhan?
Hello, Danny.
Siobhan, I often say this, and I don't know if it's possible, but you've got like 8 seconds to tell your story, which is my fault because the sausage sandwich game went on. Can we call you back and you relax, stretch out and tell your story at length? Yeah?
Yeah, go on then.
Oh, and what does it concern? What's it about?
It's concerning a terrible prize.
Ah, well, it's kind of ironic then that I've just done that to you. So, OK, we'll be right back with Paul Nicholas, the great Paul Nicholas, and then Siobhan. We will be right with you.
The successful novelist. A body at the bottom of the staircase. Beyond reasonable doubt. The new podcast phenomenon from BBC 5 Live. Download and subscribe now.
On digital, online, smartphone and tablet. This is 5 Live.
Call 08085 909 693. Calls are free from mobiles and landlines.
Text
85058. Text will be charged at your standard message rate.
Saturday mornings with Danny Baker on 5 Live.
Available now on the 5 Live webcam. Go to bbc.co.uk/5live.
Look at that. I spent the entire tube journey writing down my questions for Paul Nicholas, and I'll put them somewhere. I don't know where they're gone. Good morning, Paul Nicholas.
Good morning.
Oh, here they are.
We're in trouble now, then.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Look at that.
I'll ask you a question.
Yeah, I can't tell you what a pleasure it is, Paul, because funnily enough, Tim Rice was here the other week.
Oh, yes.
And I told him, which is quite true, that I saw Superstar 18 times.
Really?
Yeah.
An addict.
And the worst thing in the world was when I used to get, or not the worst thing in the world, but pretty close to me at the time. They say, what didn't happen often, owing to the indisposition of Paul Nicholas tonight. And there's a couple of times, and you and Stephen Tate, who used to be a Judas in
That's
it.
right.
I got so familiar with that cast, there was always that idea, Now,
I feel like I should apologise.
You got my £2.75.
Yeah.
What are you?
It was only that. It's about £100 a go now if you go.
So it is.
Yeah.
But, and we'll come to Superstar in a minute, because looking at your CV, and without wishing to over-aggrandise myself, you and I both are like Swiss Army knives. And what a long, strange trip it's been so far for you, because looking at you've been all over the place, and you'll work constantly in all kinds of ways. That's fair to say, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah. I think the terrible thing is I don't have a shed at the bottom of my garden, so I don't have any hobbies. And I think one of the things about being a performer is being able to keep working, because you're so reliant on other people. So the more things you can do, like if you can sing a bit, then you can do a musical. If you can act a bit, you can do a film maybe, or a play.
And are you one of those actors when they say you can play underwater polo, can't you?
I'll go with all my heart. Yeah, no, I can do all those things, and I don't think I've ever turned. I think the great thing about being the one thing about being a performer that perhaps you shouldn't do is always say yes. Yeah. I always say yes. Yeah. To most things. So that's kind of kept me going.
Equally, and forgive the presumption here, because, as we'll come round to in a second, you were smart enough to get buy the touring rights to both Grease and Superstar.
Yeah.
I'd have thought you'd just sit in a solid gold house wearing a fez, flicking playing cards into a top hat. You need to work. You have that thing, do you?
Yeah, as I say, I don't have any hobbies, and I enjoy it. The one thing that I found is that I actually enjoy performing. That's the secret. If you can find something in life that you absolutely enjoy doing, then you should do it. And I found that I enjoyed performing, and I've managed to do it. Money, of course, is quite important, and you get to a point where you think, well, you know what, I am slightly reliant on people calling me. So that's why I kind of got into the producing thing.
Yeah.
So that I could...
And going back to your early days as a pop star, not the pop star we all know, but the band, Paul Dean and the
Dreamers.
Paul Dean and the Dreamers. What kind of band were Paul Dean and the Dreamers?
It was a covers band, because in those days, you know, you all wore suits and you did covers, and most of the covers in those days were Elvis Presley or Cliff Richard.
But how to sort of go even back further now, how did you even get together in a band? Did you just think, oh, I want to do that with your schoolmates?
Well, I was useless at school. I left school at 16. I didn't have any qualifications at all.
Yeah.
I went to work in a raw plug factory. I don't know if you know what that is.
Well, I didn't know there were dedicated factories for raw plugs.
Yeah, you made raw plugs. And if you could make 1,000 of these raw plugs an hour, you'd make more money. And the guy came up to me after the first day and said, no, I think we'll keep you on flat rate, because I was useless. So in those days, when you were about 16, you then went professional, which meant that you became, you know, you relied on performing in bands. So we did that for quite a while, but to be honest with you, I wasn't crazy about it, because it wasn't quite enough for me doing covers. And then I met Screaming Lord Sutch.
Yeah.
And that, for me, was a real eye-opener, because Sutch in those days had a theatrical act.
Yeah.
You know, so he wasn't just
Say the
looking
least,
for people singing. I mean, you've got to wear a leopard skin, you've got to dress up and be his stooge and things like that. And I suppose for me, that was the beginning of the sort of theatrical career that I began. And
how did you get the Lord Sutch thing? Because again, Lord Sutch is, sadly, I remember mainly for the Raving Lunacy Party and being a bit of a comic cut, but that was a rocking band he had. He cut some absolute screaming. I mean, famously with you know, Jimmy Page and Jeff Beck, and but his image overwhelmed whatever great night out you could have. How did you actually start working with Lord Sutch?
Well, my friend Stuart Taylor, who was a guitar player, got into the band, and he was one of the Tornadoes after he joined the Tornadoes, and then, but prior to that, he was with Sutch. So I said, "Can you get me in?" And so he got me in as a piano player and the singer and the stooge.
Yeah.
And it was great fun, you know. And Sutch this was like 1961, 62.
Sutch, as early as that?
Oh, yeah. And Sutch had hair down to his shoulders. When in those days, no one had that.
Alice Cooper probably saw that act, I always
Exactly.
think, yeah.
So he was a very original act. He couldn't sing particularly well, but he had this wonderful act, and he did this thing called Jack the Ripper, where he came out and performed as Jack the Ripper. And I used to dress up in all these dodgy dresses, and he used to stab me and pull out rubber hearts and rubber arms.
He came on in the coffin, didn't he?
He came on the coffin. So it was quite. You know, we used to get quite a lot of aggro from the local Herberts, who took rather an exception to this.
Yeah, it was an aggressive act.
It was an aggressive act, and I always used to check the escape route, because you get pint glasses coming over.
Yeah.
And we used to play Oxford Town Hall, and they used to throw pennies from the moment we went on to the moment we came off. In fact, we earned more from the pennies that they threw than what Sutch paid us. So we used to go on with towels around our heads, because we knew we knew all these pennies would come at us. So it was a wonderful dramatic training.
And that gave you a taste for treading the ball, so to speak. But then you have various incarnations. As I say, you did your Paul Dean thing. Then you became Oscar. Is that right?
Well, prior to becoming Oscar, I went to work for a music publisher.
Yeah.
And my only claim to fame there was I discovered Sweet. You remember Sweet?
Don't please. I'm coming to that part of the story in a second. They were called the Watchmen. What were they called?
They were called Wainwright's Gentlemen.
Wainwright's Gentlemen.
Brian Connolly was the singer. Mick was the drummer.
Yeah.
And indeed, they sent their tape in to this music publisher, and I thought, well, they sound very good. And I went to meet them, and I ended up sort of managing them for a little while for the music publishing company. And eventually I put them with Phil Wayman, who was their producer, who then got involved with Nicky Chin and Mike Chapman, and then they went on to have marvellous hits.
Their first records these days, the early ones on, I think, Philips or Fontana it was, and on Parlophone, they go for like £1,000.
Do they?
I don't know if you've got any knocking around in that shed you don't have, but the early Sweet records, when they were still trying to find their glam feet and playing quite psychedelic rock, £1,000 a pop, my friend.
Well, prior to them becoming the Sweet, the only record that I did with them was a record, I think it came out on Decca, and they were called Sweet Shop. So
Sweet Shop.
That would be even more rare.
Well, I hope you've got a box of them somewhere. Now, let me play you something. Just hold those headphones up to you. You can tell us about this. Here you are as Oscar. This is, again, this wasn't a hit. Oscar did have one. I think he released 3. But what do you know about this?
Yes.
Okay, we'll hear a bit of this and then we'll continue.
Over the wall we go. Oh, coppers and honors. Over the wall we go. Leave them a note saying Happy New Year. I know all the best ways to break out of here. I helped a young laddie called Ivan. I bundled him over the wall last night. Then he climbed back and he grabbed me tight.
Now, people may be saying, that's not the sort of thing to lay on a nation with a morning head. But tell us about that song.
Well, it was written... basically, I was being managed by Robert Stigler at that point.
Yeah.
What's that music I can hear?
Oh, no, this plays under us like a...
Oh, does it? I felt I should start crooning.
You can take the headphones off now.
No.
But that's the band in the next
Oh, I see.
to accompany us. Yeah.
So basically, we were looking for a song, and we'd heard about this writer called David Jones. So I went to meet this guy called David Jones, who was very into mime. And of course, as we all know, or certainly many people know, David Jones turned into David Bowie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So David was quite well known as a good songwriter. And at that particular time, there'd been a lot of escapes from prison. And he'd written this rather satirical song about, all coppers and irons, we can all escape, blah, blah, blah.
I'm just putting on in the background again so people now know, here's your David Bowie, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not his finest moment, and probably not yours neither.
Oh, no, come. I won't have it, Governor.
But it's very much of a piece of what he was doing then, that first album, which people make allowances for. That was the same year. That's 50 years ago now.
Is it really?
It's 50 years ago.
I wonder why I felt so stiff.
Over the wall. So there it is. You were Oscar, and then...
By the way, Danny, that was banned from the BBC.
Was it?
You're going to be fired after this.
Won't be the first time, my friend. Just again, if you try the headphones again, now we come, if you will, to this.
She asks me why.
Ah, yes.
Now,
you dig my Dixie Peach?
Your Dixie Peach. This is Hair, of course.
Yeah.
How did you land? And again, I saw that about 3 times.
Right.
Famously once. Well, I won't go into that story.
Why not?
Well, I'll just tell you this: when it wasn't you.
No, was I off again?
No.
What a late... You're doing terrible for my reputation.
Whoever it was took up a position at the end of the row me and my sister were in, and I was at the end of the row.
Oh, yes.
And I just leave it there and we'll move right on.
I can imagine.
It brushed my ear.
Did it?
Yes, there you go. So
that's why you're deaf in one ear.
He wasn't that blessed. Anyway, the idea is that you then get into hair. And just a little of this, if you will. Here we go.
Give me a head with hair, long, beautiful hair, shining, gleaming, streaming.
Paul, how much were you of this world? Were you a hippie at the time?
No, I wasn't. As I said, I was working in a music publisher's. I heard about the show.
Yeah.
I read about it. It caused a great sensation in New York.
Yeah.
The 4-letter words, the nudity.
Yeah.
And it came, and I just went along and auditioned. And after about 6 or 7 auditions...
What did you do for an audition? Do you remember?
I was a bit clever, actually. When I think I was a bit naff, I actually sang God Save the Queen.
Did you?
Yeah.
So now in 68 or whatever.
I don't know why.
That would have been right. Absolutely, you know why. That's perfect.
I don't know. And anyway, I sang it, and they lined us all up at the end and said, you go, you stay, you go, you stay. And I stayed and basically got, I suppose, what would be considered one of the leading parts of the show. And really didn't look back because for the first time in my life, I found out what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Which was that combination of drama, I know it sounds very grand, and also
singing.
singing.
That's what you do.
And that's what I do, and I've done it ever since, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Not every night, clearly.
But equally, was that under siege, like Superstar became under siege? Was it an outrageous thing to be doing that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, people used to go out, and the second song into the show was a song called Sodomy.
Yeah.
And
Easy now.
Yeah, I won't go
That's
into
the record, no.
I won't go into all of the lyric.
Yeah.
But that's the first point where they left.
Yeah.
The audience some of the audience got up and left.
And how did your father was both he represented his lawyer, the Rolling Stones, and he was part of MI6 for a while.
Yeah.
Did they think, you know what you're doing, son? Do you? You're all right.
He wasn't keen on me using my real name at that particular
Which
point. Which is Busely.
And what's the genus of that? What is the?
It's a Flemish name.
Oh, okay.
But I'm basically a Flemish peasant.
Yeah.
Yes. So Oscar wasn't mad, and actually at the time I was sort of still trying to be a pop singer, and Paul Busling didn't sort of sit so well.
No, it's not marking.
No.
Yeah.
Although having said that, I wish I had it now. Because
I guess it's
a stronger name than Paul Nicholas.
No, it isn't. No. Believe me, when I said you were coming in,
really?
I said if Busling was coming in, it wouldn't have made that many ripples.
No, that's true.
Just moving on. I'm sorry to keep going through it, but
time is pressing.
There is, and so now we come. Here we go. Now we come to. Oh yes, Superstar. It was I'd say when Tim Rice was here, and I said I remember battling through. I was only like 14, 15, battling through protesters outside.
Yeah.
And it was a hot ticket, but it was so controversial. What impact did it have on you? Did the press try and see, did they blame you?
Well, they didn't blame me for anything, but as you rightly say, it had a lot of controversy surrounding it, because just the very title, Jesus Christ Superstar, upset a lot of people.
Yeah.
Sticking superstar on the end of Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
people got offended by that. And I remember they lined the first press conference I did. They took me to a pub. I don't know why they took me to a pub, but all the press were there waiting for me. And, I was rather overwhelmed by it, to be honest with you, because I'd never had that kind of attention ever. And eventually I went outside and they started taking photographs and things. And some journalist stuck a pint in my hand. And it was a very clever picture, because I had a pint in my hand, and behind me in this shot was a nun. And the guy had set it up so that I'd have a pint and there'd be a nun in the back. Jesus has a pint was the headline.
Yeah.
So, but as you say, there were a lot of people protesting. But it was a wonderful show.
Oh, do you remember where you were when you got the call to say, you are... Because even though it's told through Judas's eyes, Jesus is obviously
When he gets the crucifixion.
You get that whole thing, beautiful.
Because the best songs really are Judas's songs.
Yes, they are.
Let's be...
Oh, no, Gethsemane, isn't it?
Gethsemane is a wonderful song.
And it was such a bare set. It was just those squares, white squares that lit from underneath. It was a very bare set.
Yeah, indeed. But in terms of commercial songs, you've got I Don't Know How to Love Him and Jesus Christ Superstar. Those are the two songs that people kind of know. But as you rightly say, Gethsemane had closed the first act and was a big moment where Jesus was confused what's going on.
7 minutes of
and of course the crucifixion was for the first time for me when I went up on the cross, and I'm not a religious person. I broke down and cried because it was so emotional.
It is extraordinary. People might think it's just, sort of, no disrespect to Cats or anything else, but it is with the 39 lashes and everything else.
Yeah.
That whole thing.
And the way that Jim Sharman, who directed it, went on to direct the Rocky Horror Show thereafter, but directed it, was that when the crucifixion was done, that it really took the audience by surprise, because I came up from below the stage and rose up, and it looked like I was hanging in mid-air, because I was sitting on a bicycle seat on a frame.
Oh, no, don't tell me that. It's daylight upon magic.
I'm sorry.
I didn't know that. Yeah, go on.
Well, sorry, I did it for 10 months. After 9, I was less emotional. In fact, most of the time I was trying not to sneeze. But it was a thrilling moment for the audience. And I've seen it done before, again, since then. And there's been some wonderful performances, wonderful singers, because I'm an okay singer, but the standard today with the singers and, the artists that come out of these schools is fantastically high. But the only thing was disappointing for me about the crucifixion, and the last production I saw, you saw Jesus dragging the cross around, and then putting on it, then it went up. Whereas the way that Jim did it, it was such a visual... surprise to see him rise up.
Yeah,
it was wonderful. Well, you remember?
Of course, 18 times over again.
And it was a very revolutionary score. I mean, it was the first rock opera. It had a fantastic rock score.
Yeah.
With violins, of course, and which made it orchestral. But it was quite radical, I think.
And then from two pieces of radical theatre, amongst other things you did, then, but your probably lasting legacy, it will be Vince, there you are. Just Good Friends comes along. Yeah. And like you say, okay, a series that you say you saw just recently again,
Yeah,
didn't you?
they re-showed it on BBC while I was on maternity leave, and it's still
She said it before you turned up.
Yeah,
of course it does.
It's still such a... me and my mum adored it when it was on. My mum is very excited.
Are you old enough to have seen it the first time?
I am 40 next year.
I can't believe it. I won't have it.
Well, as I say,
Back to me.
it is one of the series which, forgive me, is under the radar when people talk about the great series for some reason.
Yeah.
It's a massive success. And I don't know another sitcom that's so fondly remembered, mainly by women, to be absolutely honest, as well. My wife, Paul Nicholas is in it. It was that kind of thing. It was in a tremendous... I mean, John Sullivan, of course. Yeah. But did it end at the right time? Was there ever any overtures like Only Fools and Horses kept coming back and coming back? Was there ever a time to bring Just Good Friends back?
Well, it was really about a relationship, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was will they, won't they, on and off kind of thing. And I think John felt he was going to end it after the second series.
Yeah.
The second series, I think, ended with us kind of drifting apart. She leaves the pub and I look sadly into a beer, if I remember, and then clock a girl in the corner, another girl. So I don't think it was very satisfactory for the audience. So he wrote a third series, and we did a couple of specials, and we obviously got married at the end. But it was brilliantly written. I mean, it's always down to the writing. Whatever you do.
No, and then when you've got John Sullivan, that's that.
I mean, if you're lucky enough to get one of those in your career, you're a very lucky man, and I was lucky.
Let's go to another extreme, and I'm not just throwing this at you. Whatever became of Jack and Jill, which on the Internet Movie Database. How about this, kids? On the Internet Movie, this is its précis of the plot. In order to collect inheritance money, a slacker tries to induce a heart attack in his grandmother by convincing her she has become a target for youth supremacists. Now, I've never seen this piece of work. I don't know how it is. What do you remember of whatever became of Jack and Jill?
Well, I remember it.
1972, by the way.
Yeah, 1972. I think I'd just been in Hair, and I think it was a gap between Hair and doing Superstar.
Okay. Yeah, of course it would be. That's the bridge.
Yeah, and it was a film. It was a horror film, basically, produced by a company called. Oh God, I can't remember. They did lots of. Who was it?
Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer.
No, Max Rosenberg and Milton Subotsky. Who did lots of horror stuff. And
just from that, I didn't realise it's an out-and-out horror film, and it's a dark film by the sound of it.
But they did lots of horror.
All right.
That was their thing. They did like Christopher Lee stuff and all. Amicus, they were called. And
Amicus,
Amicus. That was their company, and they did lots of films. And this was a slightly less horrific film, but a very dark subject.
Do you enjoy that? Do you enjoy playing a right, no good, bad?
Well, it was my first film, and I didn't see it myself until about a year ago.
No, really?
Yeah, and I saw that it was on YouTube, and I had a look myself. It's not bad. And somebody told... I went and I met a producer, he said to me, they were very earnest, he said, thank you so much for whatever happened to Jack.
Really?
Yeah, because I think it's a little bit of a cult.
Without a doubt.
Only a tiny
The
one.
reviews on there say it. Or the only thing is, I didn't recall it, and when I saw that plot, so I thought, well, okay, all right, but I don't think you'd sell that these days unless the good the League of Gentlemen fellas wrote it. But I just wondered what you remember that. And again, just leap through. You got Listermania. I forgot.
Oh yeah,
what was that like? That is the most bizarre film I've ever seen.
Have you seen it?
Oh, I went to the pictures and saw it.
Oh my God!
And I was a fan of Tommy, which you're also in. You're also in Tommy.
Yeah.
But that looked like when Ken Russell really had just said, you know what, I don't care anymore. It was an extraordinary...
Ken had a marvellous success with Tommy.
Yeah.
A big commercial success. And David Puntnam decided that it would be a good idea to have Roger in a film with Ken directing.
This is Roger Daltrey, by the way.
Roger Daltrey, sorry.
Yeah.
And Roger played Liszt, and I just done Cousin Kevin in Tommy, and I play Richard Wagner. And as you rightly say, it is bizarre.
It is. It's not necessarily a faithful biography.
Rick Wakeman's in it.
Yes, he is. I forgot that. Rick's in it.
And the thing about it, I think, to be honest with you, Ken gave up on it about halfway through and sort of disappeared. So I found myself writing dialogue and things.
Well, I enjoyed it. I enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it, but now I've seen it since. It is it's as wild a film. And this is what I said when you first came in. Your career. Magnificent, but it looks like you've been living for pleasure alone. You've done some, and that's without stuff like this. If you want to hear this, of course, inevitably here we are. Now,
yes.
This was a great. I wasn't Grandma's Party. I could take or leave. Dancing with the Captain is a great song, and I remember this is one of my first things I ever played as a DJ.
But you're not going to play it all, are you?
No, I'm not going to play it. No. I won't play it all.
Spare the people.
But then, Dancing with the Captain is a great disco record and a great pop record. Yeah. But was that a lark for you? Because you were established, and then all of a sudden you were wearing the bowler hat and the cane on top of the pops.
No, it was a conscious decision to try and have a hit. Because I'd been trying all my life to have a hit. I started off in bands and things. Yeah. And the one thing you want to have if you're a pop singer is a hit. And I got to about...
But were you a pop singer? You were, an August established actor and all this?
But I still had that burning desire to have a hit. And I'd always relied, because I'd always kind of made records, and I'd always relied on somebody else. Listen to this, it's great. And I always went with it. And I thought, no, I'm going to look myself. So I went out and looked, met two guys called Bugatti and Musca, went to their flat, played me loads of worthy songs that were fabulous, none of which sounded like a hit. And on the way out, they said, oh, well, we've got this one.
Oh, one of those, okay.
And they played Reggae Like It Used to Be.
Yeah, okay.
And I thought, oh, that sounds commercial. So I took their song, met with Chris Neal, who went on to produce loads of people, fantastic producer, and we stuck my voice on their demo, had a hit with it. I thought, well, this is a jokey song. I'll wear a jokey outfit. I wasn't trying to move the needle.
But you had about 4 major hits, and what was the biggest hit?
The biggest hit I had was a song called Heaven on the Seventh Floor.
In the States, that was a massive hit.
Yeah, it got into the top 6 or top 5 if you read Cash.
How about that?
Which was wonderful. But I was kind of playing it being a pop singer, you know what I mean?
That's what I thought. I mean, I whenever I saw you, because I knew you did acting, and you looked like you were having the time of your life.
Yeah,
well, the hat and that cane.
Yeah, well, they were lightweight songs, and they were funny songs, and therefore I think they needed that kind of presentation. Yeah. So I was kind of...
Paul, I'm so sorry. I mean,
I'm sorry. Do you mean we're stopping? We can't talk more about me?
My usual perfect structure as an interview. About this time. So what now? Are you a promoter now, or are you still going to turn up?
We've got Greece on tour.
You've got Greece?
Greece on tour with Tom Parker in it.
My daughter's just played Sandy in it.
Has she?
They had to license the 2 other songs, because You're the One That I Want and all of that has to be licensed elsewhere, don't they?
Yeah, well, they weren't in the original production.
No, they weren't.
I did.
No, they weren't.
And Stigwood did the movie, and when we first produced it, I had to go to Rob and say, could we have those songs? He said, you can have those songs if I can co-produce this.
It was originally in Greece as well, by the way. Paul Nicholas, there is a much wider, or certainly another couple of hours in talking to you, but I always knew it would be a way. It's been a great pleasure at last. Thank you, if nothing else, for all those nights in Cambridge Circus when you were trying not to sneeze. Not like that imposter David Essex across the road. He broke character all the time.
Thank you, Danny. I've enjoyed it, and I love your hat.
Bless you. It's more especially for you. Thank you, Paul. We'll be right back.
Saturday mornings with Danny Baker on 5 Live.
Call 08085 909 693. Text 85058. Email lord.reith@bbc.co.uk.
Oh, I don't know. Siobhan, Deborah and Shelley are lining up for us, and we'll go straight to Siobhan because she was good enough to be there at 10, and I know you've got things to do like everyone else hasn't. Good morning, Siobhan.
Good morning.
Thank you for being there, my friend. Now, this is
that's all right.
This is getting the wrong prize or giving the wrong prize. What happened, my friend?
It is. So basically, my husband and I had gone for a nice weekend away in Banbury.
Beautiful.
And it was February half term because he's a teacher. And horrible wet night, windy, just nasty. So we were wandering around looking for something to do. And of course, the pub beckoned. And we found a pub that had a pub quiz on, so we thought, oh, that's all right. Bit of a beer and a few questions. And as soon as we went in, we knew we were in trouble because the place went completely silent.
Did it?
People, they didn't know.
Like the slaughtered lamb in American Werewolf.
That's exactly what it was like. Everybody looked round, it all went quiet. So we crept up to the bar and got our beer and found the most inconspicuous table that we could find. And basically, to cut a long story short, we did the quiz. We came second. And there was definitely silence when he announced that we'd come second.
That's not your
and
fault,
he said, well, second prize is a bottle of wine. You can pick it up on your way out.
Oh, no!
So we were like, OK, let's leave quickly before we get hounded out of the village.
How extraordinary, yeah.
It was very funny. So we slunk up to the bar, got our bottle of wine, crept out the door, and when we got outside, we noticed it was a screw top and the lid wasn't on properly.
Oh, man, they really didn't like you.
We were like, no, the bottle's been opened. But then even worse than that, we realised half the wine was missing.
How many people were in this pub in the first place?
It was actually quite busy, to be honest. So we kind of got the last table, but they all knew each other, obviously. So.
Oh, do you know what? I've always thought that might be a bit of a myth that you walk into, certainly, as you say, in rural towns, and they don't want you. What business you, sir, in the slaughtered lamb? But you're entitled to win a pub quiz. Not that you won it, you came second.
I was so glad we came second. Can you imagine if we come first and won the money?
Then you'd have won the crate.
Thrown it at you.
Then you'd have won the crates of flat beer. That would have been the way that worked, man. Well, bless you anyway. And I take it you didn't drink it.
No, we thought it was best not to.
They might.
What was in there?
Well, that might have been the bonus because you suddenly take a wee drop of that and you find out why they didn't want you in there. This is the plot to a Scooby-Doo I once saw. Down in the cellar. I'm sorry, they were making up 5 drug cocktails for the local university. You could have told man alive.
We're into Paul Nicholas's horror films again, aren't we?
Exactly. Yes, we are. Well, thank you, Siobhan. Bless you for hanging around for that. Take a little sip of that and you're away. Bless you, Siobhan, thank you. Coming right to you, Deborah, and then you, Shelley. What you got over there, by the way?
We've got a couple of bottles lurking in the cupboard for you.
Oh, yes, this is earlier on. I can never remember the top of the show, but some of the stuff at the top of the show I forget people act upon, and one of these was that lonely bottle of booze. When people bring you back, or you bring back from holidays, or a bottle of booze that remains lurking in the cupboard behind all the useful booze. There's always the lonesome bottle of spirit that will never get used. What you got there, Peps?
Well, from Adrian, this bottle of corn and oil Barbadian rum was bought during the first holiday I took with my now wife in 1982. Like all things, it tasted fantastic.
That's been there since 82. You know why? Because they have the conversation. Is that still all right, do you think? And I always go, oh, it's spirit, it's alcohol. Yes, it lasts forever.
They open those for years.
I know.
Roman ruins.
I don't know whether that's true. There's Baileys. They've always got a quarter bottle of Baileys. No, it's got alcohol in it. The cream is cured.
Yes, it has sat ever since next to with the bottle of grenadine that is next to it in the picture. And despite many clear-outs, no one has the heart to bin it.
Yeah.
We now have sons aged 18 and 20. Mysteriously, a third of the bottle is left, but no one in the house will admit to liking or drinking it.
I've never seen that corn and oil.
Corn and oil.
Well, this is Louise and Rob. Now, I think this is Rob says, I'm a postman. I get a lot of booze.
Really?
I know, I thought that until you realise that at Christmas people still do give the Christmas box. Anyway, he said, I'm a postman. I get a lot of booze. Some unwanted and specially hand-picked for me, but mainly unwanted, where it's been grabbed in sheer panic. Oh, the postman's at the door, quick! As you can see, I also get the delights of homemade beverages. He sent us a photo here, including this slow gin. Lucky to get it. In which is my emergency supply in case William Hogarth ever pops in. Yes, there is. Look, a homemade slow gin. But again, these people are belly aching, and yet, probably quite literally, there's 2/3 of that bottle gone. That lonely bottle of booze. One more there, Peps, and then we'll...
Yes, we've got Glyn and Didsbury. Hi, Danny. A bottle lurking in the cupboard. Here's a picture of a bottle of some form of vodka or cognac from Kyrgyzstan, where my brother lives.
Slivovich. That's
Brought
what it
back
is.
as a gift for my parents, but never opened. The reason it remains with us is its unique selling point of having a removable, tailor-made leather coat and a national Kyrgyzstan-style hat at a jaunty angle.
Yeah, go on the website and see that. That's a work of art. When I was a teenager, the first time I ever went abroad to Spain, you'd bring back what one supposes, and certainly was advertised as brandy, in those bottles like a bullfighter.
Oh, yes.
And there'd be a bullfighter-shaped bottle, which we thought, wow, custom bottles. But that stuff in them. My old man could drink anything, but I remember seeing him tip that down the sink. Here's Deborah. Hey, Deborah.
Hello there, Danny.
Thank you for being there, Deborah. It seems everyone wants to do the amnesty on that lonely bottle of booze. What you got there, Deborah?
Absolutely. Well, in 1990, my husband Sean and I took our first holiday together in Mallorca.
Beautiful.
And he was very excited on our second day when we passed a shop full of bottles of wine which had football club emblems painted on them. And usually you get your Manchester United, your Tottenham Hotspur, your Arsenal, but there was absolutely everything. And he's a die-hard Ipswich Town supporter.
Yeah.
And there on proud display was a bottle with the emblem of the Suffolk Punch, and of course he had to buy it. But not only did we buy that one, we bought a second one for my father-in-law and a Bolton Wanderers one for my dad as well, because he's been a die-hard Bolton supporter all his life. So,
Now, I'm looking at this photograph you sent in, and then that almost is like one out of a prop from a horror film, because there's plenty of cobwebs on this, and it looks.
There is, yeah.
Has anyone ever tasted the brew?
No. I am considering, actually, it's Father's Day tomorrow, that perhaps we should uncork it after 27 years and perhaps see what it tastes like. So we shall see.
It can't go off.
Tangy, I think. You reckon?
Isn't that true? They open wine, possibly with the local football club on it, from the Pharaoh's tomb, and it's still good. No, that's honey, isn't it? Honey never goes off. Honey never goes off.
Maybe. I'm not quite sure what's in there, but we might give it a go tomorrow anyway.
Do you know what? No, we can't, because you run into all kinds of red tape these days. But doing it live on the show next week would be wonderful.
I can ring again and we can give it a go.
I would love.
Get him to drink
I'm
it.
looking at this bottle with its pretty rudimentary Ipswich Town label on it. I know you're going to go. You'll say, "I'm opening the bottle now," and we'll hear. And I'll be here going, Deborah. Oh, for the love of God, Deborah! I would leave it where it is for novelty purposes if I was you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks for the show.
No problem at all. Bless you.
You've made my morning already, because my first teenage crush you've just been talking to for
Called
half
it,
an hour.
and we could have kept going. He's every bit the charmer, don't you know? Yeah.
He's fantastic.
When I mentioned David Essex, he raised an eyebrow. There might be some history there. We don't know. What you got over there, Peps?
Well, you've just reminded me of make it all about me, but the lonely bottle in the cupboard. When we were children, my mum used to make, the ice cream sodas with a bit of lemonade and the dollop of ice cream in it. And my mum tells the story of, we all came in from the garden one hot day saying, "Mum, this tastes funny. This doesn't taste right." "Oh, go away. Just leave me alone." We all go out in the garden. "No, this doesn't taste right, Mum. It's not right." I think she thought because it was probably a Sainsbury's bottle of lemonade, we were
rather than our white.
Took a sip of it. Pure Cointreau.
Was it?
My dad had brought a bottle of Cointreau. She rings Dad at work. He'd brought a bottle of Cointreau back from holiday that was so strong, the lid had popped off. So he decanted it into a lemonade bottle.
Every episode of Casualty starts like this.
Every drunk
single
children.
one.
But my dad being my dad went, "You haven't thrown it, have you?" "No,
Literally.
keep it." He put that in his coffee every day.
Every single episode of Casualty starts like that. Bottles get decanted and somebody pottering around in their shed. Here's Shelley. Hey, Shelley.
Hi, Danny. How are you?
Good as gold, Shelley. All the better for speaking to you, Shelley. This is something you used to hate, love. Saying you love, hate. And here we go. What have you got for us, my friend?
Pineapple.
Go on. What do you mean, pineapple?
I've always hated pineapple ever since I was a child. Disgusting, horrible.
No.
Just don't like tropical fruit.
Hang on, whoa. Don't. They're the sweetest, nicest, most evocative fruits on the planet, and I say, I've tasted apricot, but these are. You didn't like pineapple?
No, hated pineapple.
Wow.
Don't even like mango either. And once I had a dinner, I was dating a guy, I had a dinner at his house, and there was a fruit salad, and there was actually pineapple in the fruit salad, and I was almost sick at the table. You know when you get pineapple in your mouth and it makes you
I do.
tingle and water?
I seek it out.
Yeah.
Oh. I've visited the Dole Pineapple Factory in Honolulu. Yes, I have. So how did you get around this? You picked the pineapple out, did you?
Well, no, I had to swallow it because it would have been rude to have been either ill at the table or spit it out. So I had to swallow it. But I've now got to the age of 47.
And now you...
Just in the last 2 weeks.
In the last 2 weeks?
Like pineapple, yes.
Oh,
what
bravo.
tipped it for you?
And how did you overcome this phobia? When did you face it down?
Well, I actually bought a fruit salad from a very popular sandwich shop.
Pret a Manger, was it them?
Yes, it was. Yes.
Probably, yeah.
And I just saw the pineapple, and I was going to pick it out, and I thought, no, actually, I will give it a try. And I ate it, and I really enjoyed it.
There you go. It's this may be next week's Phonium Peps. I realise I've wasted my life.
Yeah.
Wow. It's
Hawaiian pizza is now open to you.
A spear of
Definitely ham and pineapple. Bring it on.
A spear of pineapple. I'll tell you what. In the old days, before people complained that we got our fingers in the till and took home prizes ourselves. Yes, we did, but we shared them. We could have sent you to the Dole Pineapple Factory for that call. And the thing is, you're going to Hawaii to go to the because pineapples grow inside a big pineapple. You know that. Do you know that? Do you know that, Shelley?
I didn't know that.
You know the top of a pineapple, what it looks like?
Yes.
That's what the plant looks like, and you reach down into the plant and unscrew the pineapple from the floor. That's how they grow. Oh, I've been to the pineapple factory. I've had that tour, all right. Thank you, Shelley. That's a perfect example. Things you just hate, you love them. Things you love, you hate. We've got Simon, and then we've got Maggie. What you got over there, Peps?
Unusual ID. This is Joe in Jersey. A South African friend of mine took his young family on holiday to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
At the car rental desk, he was asked for his driving licence and realised, to his horror, he didn't have it with him. Faced with the prospect of a 2-week driving holiday without a car, he promptly handed across his Virgin Gym membership card. As the car rental guy looked quizzically at it, my friend said, "Embarrassing, isn't it? Our government have outsourced driving licence operations to Richard Branson.
No, that's
and now we
clever.
all have to carry these." The slightly bemused gentleman nodded sympathetically and handed over the keys.
That's clever. That's exactly what we're looking for. Here's our friend Simon's next. Simon.
Greetings, sir.
Thank you very much for being there, Simon. Now, earlier on, Peps looked at me, as she often does, as if I grew up in the Edwardian era, which may not be too far from the truth, because I said one of those soothing things I can remember is being gently woken by my dad in a garden in the flats, attending to the grass, not with a lawnmower, but with shears. And she said, shears. I said, oh, yes, shears. He used to sharpen them with a stone, down on his hands and knees, inching forward,
Yeah, luxury.
What do you mean luxury?
Well, luxury in as much as I've emailed in about the fact that when I was at boarding school, I was on defaulters, which as everybody knows is
what is that? I don't know what that is.
It's always a punishment detail for some minor infringement of some code of conduct or other.
All right.
And there were 3 of us lined up in military style outside one of the prefects' rooms, and they said, right, okay, what should we give you? Right, okay, the lawn needs doing. So we looked at this mower outside and all said, well, that seems a little bit of a doddle, just mow the lawn and bit of a weed and a hedge trim. He said, right. He said, you're the oldest one, you can have the shears. The middle one, you can have the household scissors.
Household scissors?
And he picked up a pair of nail scissors. They're yours.
Oh.
And
this gives you a backbone. Nail scissors,
2 hours of snipping. My at least 3 feet of edging in 2 hours was mastery.
What did you get? You got the nail scissors?
I got the nail scissors, being the youngest and the smallest.
No.
Yeah.
And did it do it? See, the thing is, I know certain parts of the capital, people employ people to go, no, you do them in nail scissors because that's what the hipsters like. Did you do a good job?
I might have got away with it if I'd actually had a different prefect in charge, because I was in the days of fagging.
Yeah.
I was fagging for one of the prefects.
Yeah.
And he said, I would have given you the shears.
I see.
It's all favours.
Do you know what? Whether it's the BBC or doing lawns with nail clippers, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And once again, that adage is brought home to us.
And it ruined me for life.
Yeah, well, because I do. But actually, on TFI Friday, would have had that. let's go over to see how Simon's doing with his nail clippers in Hyde Park. That is a great bit of television. Thank you very much indeed, Simon. What you got there, Peps?
Paul in Newcastle. Unwanted prizes. In the early 80s, my friends and I met in our local pub before a big night out clubbing. While I was at the bar, my friends bought raffle tickets and handed me some. I paid no attention until a man walked round calling out the winning numbers. I had won second place. He handed me a carrier bag with my prize, which contained a leg of pork, a leg of lamb and some sausages.
Brilliant. That's fantastic.
I carried that bag all night, even into the nightclub. The look on the bouncer's face when he checked the bag was priceless. I was not a hit with the ladies for some reason.
Do you know what? Next week we'll have to do injuries from frozen food. We can certainly do it. I know. We again, coming back to TFI Friday, we did bowling with frozen turkeys at Christmas. And it's very effective to bowl with a frozen turkey. And during rehearsal, that was all messing around, and I threw it. And I can't remember who was got in the way of it, but I brought somebody down, a human being, down to the sound of, like, the pins falling in a bowling alley. I brought them down with a frozen turkey on the impromptu iced bowling alley. Here's Maggie. Hey, Maggie.
Yeah, good morning, Danny.
Thank you very much for being there, Maggie. I appreciate it. Now, next to your name here, it says, clothes that belong to the famous.
Yes.
I'm agog. What have you got?
I was at college, at art college, between 64 and 68.
Oh, what a hotbed of hippiedom. Well done. Bravo. Bravo.
And, below me, in the year below me, was Fred Balsara, who is actually, or became Freddie Mercury.
Freddie Mercury, as was. He was at the same art college.
He was the year below me, and for 2 years he studied fashion. And we used to have to produce garments for the end of year show, and one of his was a dress, and we were allowed to buy them later, and I bought it, and I still have it.
Oh, now, this is genuinely, this is something
proper.
I mean, there must be Queen historians out there genuinely would say, wow, can we see that? Please take a photograph. We would love to see it. That's a real. I mean, the thing we were doing this morning was worthless pop memorabilia. Oh, I think you know what you're doing here, Maggie. This isn't. Just describe it for us. What does it look like?
Oh, well, it was sort of flowery time. You know, it would have been probably 67, and it's a light cotton long thing with a sort of frilly collar. It was very fashionable at the time.
And you wore it, did you?
Well, I wore it afterwards. It wasn't worn by me in the fashion show because I wasn't the right shape. But he also modelled for me because I did men's suiting as well, and I didn't. My boyfriend was not around to wear the thing, and Fred modelled it for me.
Well, I'll tell you, the subject was worthless pop memorabilia, like the wine gum that somebody kept of Rod Stewart's and the hem of Les Gravemud's coat. But this, every now and then, that does throw up a thing whereby perhaps even you don't know what trove you have there. Where do you keep it?
Oh, it's just in a bag in my wardrobe.
Oh, just in a bag in
Mind you, I've got Paul Gascoigne's shirt he wore, an England shirt, just in a carrier bag in our shed. But I would please take a photograph and let us see that, because genuinely, with the kind of store put by this, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame would not only loan it from you, I think they'd buy it for you at 20. Would you part with it for 25 grand?
Oh, certainly.
That's not a firm offer from me, but just to see that, sentimentality will only take you so far. Bless you, Maggie. That was a wonderful call.
I just want to say he was really a very nice, he was a shy boy and really a very nice person.
Were you quite surprised when he became, did you watch the Top of the Pops and go, hang on a minute?
That's old Freddie.
That's Freddie.
Well, yes, I do. I was in touch with other girls because he was a year below me, and, it seems odd now, but you didn't fraternise with the people below you.
That's pretty much. I mean, the BBC is organising just such a pyramid. Yeah. Just such a pyramid. Thank you very much indeed, Maggie. That was a wonderful call. How about that? I mean, by no means my favourite group in the world, Queen, but to know that's there because when you think of the Bowie thing at the V&A, that is exactly the kind of exhibit because everything otherwise is above ground and visible. Queen fans will be absolutely all over that. What you got there, Pep?
Well, talking of wearing famous people's clothes, this is from Georgina, following on from last week. We live in southwest France, and an English friend of ours who lives locally was a costumier in her previous life in London. We were doing up our kitchen, and one day she turned up with an apron. She said she thought I'd like it as it matches the colours. I put it on. It was enormous. Turns out she'd made it for John Cleese to wear in a Sainsbury's Christmas outfit.
Oh.
Advert. Every time I cook, I'm wearing John Cleese's apron, which almost reaches my ankles.
Oh, this alternate museum of popular culture, we could absolutely flesh it out from everything we're hearing about, especially Rod Stewart's wine gum. Here's Victoria. Hey, Victoria.
Hi, Danny.
Thank you for being with us, my friend. This, again, is about unusual ID. What have you got?
It is indeed. I lived in Edinburgh for a lot of years, and I used to be very keen on going to see Paco Peña's Flamenco Fire when he brought it to the Festival Theatre every summer. I also used to coerce people to go with me. And one year I was meeting a couple of girlfriends there, but they didn't know each other. They had never met, and I was going to be late. And I thought, well, saying look for a slim brunette, monsoon frock is not really going to distinguish anyone in the Edinburgh Festival Theatre. So I wanted a way for them to find each other. So I visited them both earlier in the day, and I furnished them both with a very large aubergine. And I said, this is now your key. You must take it to the Festival Theatre. You must stand in the wine bar, hold your aubergine aloft, and find them with the matching vegetable.
Just, you know what, they make all this fuss about mobile phones, don't they? You got your Twitter and you got your Grindr and all of those, I understand. Yeah, all you need to do is ID... And it worked, did it?
It worked perfectly. When I eventually got there, the two of them were sitting with a bottle of wine, giggling like old friends with their aubergines proudly displayed on the table in front of them.
Well done, my friend. What a thought. I'll give you both an aubergine to hold aloft.
I'd like to be the theatre cleaner.
Thank you, Victoria.
Who found two aubergines.
Oh, they just think Dada Theatre has been right the way through. By the way, on that, certainly on my observation, but the word ID, or what they say ID, is one of probably the most pointless abbreviation in all of the English language. Because you've got ID, right? Mm-hmm. So the I stands for I, and the D stands for identification. It's ID. Now, some people come with variations on that, but it's just about the most pointless thing, isn't it? It's I... identification. Thank you very much to Paul Nicholas, Gary O'Neill, and on the other side of the table, of course, Louise Pepper. Enjoy the weather, my friends. It's been a pleasure because of chiefly yourselves, and I'll see you next week.
The Danny Baker Show is a Campbell Davison media production for BBC Radio 5 Live.
You're listening to a BBC 5 Live podcast.
The Danny Baker Show.
If you like this, you might also like this.
Kermode and Mayo's film review.
If you don't know your app from your elbow, boom tish, here all week, tip your waitress.
To find out more about our range of podcasts, click, tap or swipe bbc.co.uk/5live.